So the outlook of many trades seem dim, especially with the events of COVID-19 and the way history has just been playing out. But now as things ramp back up, some of these trades are seeing a forecasting of high demand for technicians to come on back. This is lame statistics.
Again, hopefully, well, I only learned what the acronym LAME stood for a couple of days ago, and I'm sure some of our listeners will understand, and hopefully our friend Hot Wings will hit us up on the social medias and give us a smiley face or a laughing face or whatever else. But most people are going to look at the title and go, what the? I don't want to do statistics. The episode's going to suck ass.
Right. But whenever they said lame, I immediately knew this was going to suck. But wait, there's an underlying term to this. And some of our friends, especially in areas where Hot Wings is at, will totally understand. So when did trades become popular? Well, especially like aviation, when did that become popular? Well, this goes way back when airplanes were first invented. Like before that, the only type of air quote flight that people understood was falling with style. And then here comes the Wright brothers with their plane. And then after two significant world wars happened, we start seeing a boost in airplanes in general. People are making international flights like Charles Limbaugh and Amelia Earhart. And then the demand to just have bigger, faster, stronger, more reliable airplanes became the thing to do. And certain places, like where aviation's a major area, like say Ohio, for instance, or North Carolina, it just exploded. And so we have guys who used to be like farmers. Now they have the ability to crop dust. And these so-called crop dusters became airmail or mailing services, and then ultimately transitioned into passengers. So this stuff became like legacy jobs or legacy trades, like within a very short period of time.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at from 1903, when the Wright brothers took their first flight, fast forward to the 1960s, we were in a space shuttle heading to the moon. Like, think about that progression in that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there with, oh, well, see, the aliens visit us, and that's how we got the technology, because there's no way we could have gone from horseback to the Wright brothers flyer all the way to space. But it happened, right? And what? Well, let's face it. War is a big proponent of change, right? I got to outdo the others.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
And so you go from real rudimentary, crude piston engines and fixed pitch propellers to turbine engines and rocket motors and a variance of fuels and materials and components that these machines are being built with to design structure, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And speed. How fast can I go? What kind of maneuvering abilities do I have? Hydraulic systems, right? Going from cables or rope pulled systems to full on hydro systems to, in some space line systems, nitrogen, right?
Mm-hmm.
An RTS system, and it uses blast of air so you can control yourself when there is no atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. And with that, right? How do we build bigger, better airlines? Need maintainers to do that.
Yes. And I think too, this started back in those times when having a trade was like the thing to do, right? Like having an education was great, but you weren't worth your salt unless you had a trade. And so that was kind of like the mindset. And then somewhere along the lines, as we're trickling down the timeline, it started to shift from having a trade to having a college education, which is not terrible, but you start seeing those blue collar tradesmen starting to wean out, right? They started wanting to either progress.
Well, yeah, you see the expertise is the art form. You see it die. I mean, look at like cobblers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an art form. Or tanneries, right, for producing leather or leather to have leather made goods to make boots and whatever else. I mean, I think there's 3 tanneries left within the United States, and I think over COVID, one of those had to end up shutting down, I'm sure. So there's 2 left, right? I mean, it's just crazy. Like, and then looking at cotton mills, taking cotton and producing fabric from that. It's those skill sets are dying off,
right? And then just with aviation alone, like to flash forward to today, the age range for an experienced aircraft mechanic or a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer for some other entities around the world is between the ages of 30 to 64. I mean, where the 30 years before happened and what's going on with everyone after 64? Well, I can almost tell you the ones from 64 and up, they're either just done with working because they've worked pretty much all their life and they're about ready to retire. And then you got these 30 somethings who've probably been in it since the beginning, or they've been brought up into it since the beginning. And there's not a whole lot of younger generation of people. So once the older generation retires or just decides to not do it no more, all these 30 somethings and in betweens get trickled upwards. And now you got this void of entry level and intermediate experience. So this turns into like, okay, now we got to bridge the gap. And now the higher level dude got to do all 3 leading up to their responsibility level. And there's no one to replace it. And I think that kind of stems from what we were saying earlier. Like, it's more about getting the education and starting off as a white collar versus just having the trade and having a mastery in the trade that eventually leads to an education. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think it's because for so long, trades were viewed upon, and I don't know where it started or what entity it started with, but they said, oh, if you want to be successful in this world, you have to go to get a college education. Only the uneducated go work trade jobs. You know what I mean? That's for the lower class, the poor people. They're the ones who do that. You want to be the Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to go to school and get an education, and let the blue collar class, the lower class, let them work on your private jet, your private helicopter, your Rolls Royce, your whatever, fix your house, build your house.
Right.
So it was pushed for so long from, I don't know if it was through Washington via these schools, these universities, to say, hey, if you want to be anything in this world, you have to go to college. But now, because there was such a push for that so long, and then they've inflated it, and to get a 4-year degree, you're going to go 80 to 100 plus thousand in debt by the time you're 20 to 21 years old. That's insanity. Whereas a lot of people now are, okay, hey, I spend 6 to 12 months learning a trade, and I'm out there making anywhere from, $30 to $65 an hour. I'm not in debt. I own a house, this and that and the other. So now it's starting to swing the other way, where we're pushing for trades because, like you said, that older generation who was working the trades, well, they're moving on now, or they're passing away, and the skill set's dying with them. And so we're losing a lot of that expertise, that knowledge that should be passed on to the next generation of those workers.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're kind of jumping a little bit ahead, but as far as like, well, what I mean ahead is like we're forecasting this stuff for at least the next 18 years up to 2039. But so far, we're looking for a demand of like 192,000 new technicians, 65,000 pilots, 169,000 crew members. That's like the flight attendants and the crew chiefs in the planes, all throughout 2039. And this is just in North America alone. I'm not sure what it's going to be like for the rest of the world, but I mean, North America is only like 3 countries if you want to skin the cat like that, or 3 major countries, and 192,000 technicians, like mechanics, avionics, and all that, just between that one region. That's like I don't know, let's do some slight math here, like 10,000 a year for the next 18 years.
Yeah,
That's that's a lot.
that's a lot. Yeah, and two, right? The market's going to be flooded here pretty quick with the withdrawal out of Afghanistan. There's going to be a lot of military individuals that are close to retirement or coming up on retirement. Say, hey, my 4 years are done, or whatever the case is, and they're now going to be into the civilian market looking for jobs. So that's good news for a lot of our military vets who are getting out and looking for work. It's going to be there.
Yep. Definitely that's a good thing for them. And we've been promoting this a lot on social media, where a lot of veterans who are looking to go get into some form of the aviation or airline industry. There's a group called RTAG where they're having a convention in San Diego, and I'm sure they're doing other events of that similar effect, where you as a veteran or you as a service member who's looking into the airline industry have a means to capitalize on that, where they be a pilot, where they be a flight attendant, crew chief, technician, all that. So, I mean, the opportunity is there for you as a service member to gain that access or to gain the certification and licensing that you need to actually do the job. And then for everyone else who's not in the veteran community that just wants to start a life in the aviation industry, there's such a demand now that they almost don't care. You know, they almost don't care what you did prior. Like, oh, I used to be in a nail salon, or I used to work at a Foot Locker. Like, so the fuck what, dude? Like, can you read plain simple language? Can you see 2020 correctable or some shit like that? I'm like, well, come on in. Come on in.
I mean, I've seen that just in my own career with one of the places I've worked at in the past. We go out in town for lunch and go to a restaurant or whatever else, and you have one of the workers there serving this next, fast forward a month later, and you see them walking around the building. Oh, shoot. You work here now? Oh, yeah. I got hired in as apprentice such and such, and I'm working towards getting my licensing, and I'm getting some OJT, and company's going to buy off of my experience and in that time frame that the apprenticeship lasts, and I'm going to go get my license. And that's pretty awesome. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's already kind of working through that, where background sort of almost doesn't matter at this point. Do you have a willing to learn, and can you understand what you read?
Yes. Check mark. Let's do that. And this hits home too, especially for the section that I'm working from. Some of the people that I've met, when they asked them, well, hey, what'd you do prior to this? That's exactly what they told me. Like, I used to work at Foot Locker. I used to be I used to work at a nail salon. I used to be a hairdresser. I used to be a makeup artist. Like, what sparked you to come here? Like, what made you want to be an aviation mechanic or whatnot? And it's like, well, I just wanted to change a pace. I just wanted something different. Like, fair enough. That's fair.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, like myself, right? I wanted to travel, and heard that was a possibility, and that's why how I got into it, and that's why I took the job that I did out of school, where I was always traveling, and because I wanted to see the world a little bit. Now, I saw some not so great parts, but I saw some pretty cool stuff out there as well. And before I went to school to get my A&P, I was digging ditches. I was working for a plumbing and electrical company, and I was digging ditches and cleaning out sewage from basements where a pipe had burst, and doing that kind of work.
I'm not gonna lie.
Don't get me wrong. Now, if I had stayed with that, I'd be making pretty good money for my job, and because by now I'd be a journeyman in something. So I'm not knocking that field at all either. I'm just saying what I was doing before I decided to go to school.
Yeah. This kind of also reminds me of Hot Wings when we did an episode with her, when she said she used to work at what was it? It was like a car mechanic shop, right? And the atmosphere there wasn't just what she was looking for. It was very detrimental to her upbringing. It was very demanding of her skill set. And then when she finally decided to do the switch to be in aviation, it was such a 180. Like, And I feel that's probably the culture set that a lot of people are looking for. They like that small community mentality, but they also like individuals who are willing to share their knowledge with you, or at least sharing the upbringing with you. And this is some stuff I witnessed from the aviation communities that I've been around, where like, yeah, they're some of them are pretty brash and they're very rough around the edges. But for the most part, we all want to see each other succeed in some degree, because in the end, like, our good work equals to the planes flying, which equals to us getting paid, which equals to us continuing our livelihood, kind of thing, right? And
Yep.
and I think some of the individuals who are still around, like in our age group or higher, are part of that old trades mentality when it's, yeah, I gotta teach you like you're the upcoming Padawan to take my place, kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's how it should be. You got to train. You got to train your replacement. And I've worked with somebody gave me a good speech a long time ago, and I think it was a colonel, a retired colonel from the Air Force, and he said you got to train your replacement. And I said, okay, well, why would I want to train my replacement? You know, he's going to take my job. He goes, yeah, just like the guy above you is training you to take his. It's progression. If you don't train somebody to take your place because you feel that you know you want to hold all that information for that area so nobody else knows it but you've now stifled yourself by thinking that you've created your own niche and this and that. Well, you created your own niche to the point where nobody's going to let you get out of it now because you're the only one who knows it. And eventually those people under you are just going to skip your step and keep on going. And I've seen it 100 times.
You know, you hit the nail on the head on this one. And I know so many good examples of that. Like, I'm going to niche myself into a corner, like where this is all I know. This is where all the button pushing comes to. So instead of people trying to learn your step, they're just going to go right through it. Like, okay, like you are now the appendix of the company. Like, you're cool to have, but it does nothing meaningful to us. Like, you're just here, right?
Yeah, what you've taught people by creating that single point interaction, like you said, button pushing, people learn how to circumvent that system. Oh, okay, so it all has to go through you? I'll find a workaround. Don't worry about it. And they do.
I feel so guilty because that's exactly what I used to do. Like, oh, okay.
Oh, same here. You and I both have done that in the past. Oh, it has to go through you? Nah, no. There's another way. I'm sure I'll find it. Right. Give me 10 minutes.
It'll suck. I'll probably catch some shit for it, but
yeah, but I've been chewed out before.
Yeah. I got my ass handed to me before. It's fine. Like, it'll be okay. But what they are gonna see is this new bridge that we built, and they're gonna figure it out real fast that we can circumvent you. And this is going into like some real deep, like some gray area no shit. But this is what it's part of the thing where like you got to be able to share your knowledge, share the influence, because you don't know when that influence is gonna benefit or when it's gonna come in handy. If you just like hoard all the knowledge like a dragon in a cave with all the gold and shit, eventually you're just gonna be left alone and people are gonna forget all about you.
Yeah. Well, how many times have you ran into this where, you know, you're doing your job and you're doing an excellent job at it, and your superiors come to you and say, hey, you've been kicking ass. We would like to move you up into this position. Have you identified a replacement for yourself? Oh, no. Why not? Why don't you have somebody who can run it when you're not around? Oh, because it's me and only me, and I thought it could be me. Oh, okay. Well, since you don't have a replacement identified or somebody who can actively fill in this role immediately because we need you over here immediately, you're stuck, right?
Yeah.
And so if you have somebody that you're working in tandem and who you kind of have as your right hand man or woman, you know, to fill your shoes when you're not around, that's not good for business. Single point of failure.
Yes, absolutely.
God, we've had a lot of conversations on single point of failure.
Yeah, we should totally do a whole another episode on that one, single point of failure. Yeah, and I think that goes into like how some selfish people are, or they just don't know. Either they just don't know, or they're just that damn selfish. For the most part, it's the selfish part, because they like to be the button push. They like to be the central hub of information.
Yeah, it's just part of human nature,
Yeah.
I think.
So, I mean, me personally, I like more about the spreading the load kind of thing.
If I can divvy up some of the work so it's not all falling on me, fantastic.
Yeah, and then what that does too, is it gives me a little bit of check and balance, right? Like, say if I forget something, the person to the left or right of me is be like, "Hey, did you remember to do this?" Like, "Oh fuck, I totally forgot about that. Thanks." You know.
If you cover multiple entities or programs by having that backup system, it frees you up to focus on some other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of went on a little bit of a tangent, but that's basically what it is. Like that, with that mindset, like you got to train your replacement. You got to share the information. You got to share the wealth of knowledge. Because when your time frame comes and goes, and now the whole system is in disarray because there's not enough people coming in to fill the gaps. Now it kind of falls on you. Like, well, we would have let you go, but you're the only one here that knows how the hell to do it. So either A, we got to find someone exactly like you, or we just keep you here. Right.
Yeah.
And that just kind of delays your end that much longer. So for all the older individuals that are in the process of leaving, like, I'd write a book or something, or have like a how-to manual, or a hot tips kind of thing, and start throwing that stuff down range so people can actually use it, maybe incorporate it into something, to that change that you guys were preaching so hard about wanting to do. That's a way to start it.
Yep. So remember that as you guys are moving on and into your aviation maintainer's career, to get it back on the original track.
And so for all the other ones who are just coming in, right? I mean, the ones who've never been in aviation, or the ones who have very limited exposure to aviation, now's the time to do it. I'm telling you, because like we said, like if we're hiring 10,000 new technicians every year for the next 18 years, granted, a good majority of it is going to be people who've already done something to the effect and then are just transitioning to that field. That's fine. But they're not going to fill all 10,000 of just that section, because let's face it, like, you get too many of one thing, it's going to start to conflict with itself. So you need a little bit of a balance, right? And then
so it was explained to me this way, right? Your A&P license, your airframe and power plant license, is a license to work. Just because you have the license doesn't mean you know anything about anything. It just gives you the opportunity to go work and learn. So get your license, but just because you have it doesn't mean you're king shit of aviation. You're definitely not.
Yes. And go ahead.
Just get in the shop and get your OJT. You say, well, I want to stay in school and get all these certifications. And from our EASA and CASA and FAA realms, it's good to have all the certs, and it opens a lot more doors for you. But experience is everything.
Yes.
So get your license, get out there, get to work, and learn what you can, and pick up those other licenses along the way as you feel that you require them or need them or just want them. But the hands-on is necessary for progression, because if I'm an employer, right, and I'm hiring and I need experienced mechanics, I need turnkey mechanics, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, I got a King Air, two new King Airs in the fleet, and I don't have any King Air experience. And you applied to me, yeah, but I got my A&P, I got my FCC, I've got my these hydro and whatever fittings certifications. I've got these avionics specialty bench testing certifications. I've also got my B1 EASA. Well, fantastic, but none of that's related to the King Air. You have no experience. You have no aircraft experience. You've just spent time in school getting the license. You don't actually have any hands-on application. I need somebody who I can throw in there. Maybe doesn't have King Air experience, but has spent the last 5 to 6 years working a Gulfstream. Okay, well, at least they've got hands-on and understand and can move on. And if you get your license and get out there, hell, most companies will send you to the school, so you ain't got to spend your own money. They'll pay you to go to school to learn what they want you to learn to better that company.
Yeah, you know what? I was reading this article for CASA, the Australian version of the FAA. And I want to say it's this, the FAA has something similar where they have like a high school program for like high school juniors. I want to say this, where they can apprentice, get some of the schooling done for the A&P, and by the time they graduate, they would have had at least 2 years under their belt in some form of an aviation platform, and they're well under, and they pretty much got the experience needed so they can just test out for their license, right? And
Yeah.
well, I
So
think
there is something like that within the US, but it's not at all locations. Like where I grew up, it's, even though it's in the birthplace of aviation, they didn't offer anything like that, at least in the area where I was at. But I had a friend who I worked with at one of the jobs, and he was from Queens, New York City, and his high school offered that. So when he graduated high school, he had an A&P and 2 years of hands-on already. So he was already ahead of the curve. I know in the area where I and you live, but more on the side of where I live, they have 2 high schools now within the area that offer that, because the aviation industry in this immediate area is so big. Like the industry, like most companies, US based aviation companies are here, at least from a DoD perspective. And so to wit, the high schools in the area, they built brand new high schools, specifically aviation based STEM schools. So you come out of school with an A&P, and in some aspects you've already got an associate's degree towards your engineering. And then the local college has been tailored many classes to focus aviation based. So whether what route you want to go, if you want to go now, I say engineering, right? For Europe and Australia, maintainers are considered engineers, but here in the States, we're considered maintainers. We're not called engineers. Engineers are the ones who sit behind the computers and draw plans and documents and blueprints, the nerds, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So a lot of times once they get out of the high school here, they go to the local community college, and by the time 2 years into the community college, they've got a bachelor's in mechanical, aeronautical, or electrical engineering. And then they also have courses for literal aircraft manufacturing. And so you'll go in there and you'll learn some sheet metal aspects. You'll learn some composite aspects. You'll learn different computer programs that you'll be utilizing within one of those companies in the area. Like, it gives you a heads up. And then now these companies are then recruiting directly from that one spot. So by the time you get out, you're almost guaranteed a job. And even the company that you and I work for currently have just started a program with the local College of the Canyons, and it's a low observable course. And so you can go now you get accepted into the course pending you can pass a background check. So keep that in mind for those who want to apply. And College of the Canyons, I think, is down in Santa Clarita, if I'm not mistaken. But anyhow, you go there, you learn the basic ins and outs of low observable, and then from there, the company will recruit directly out of that program. And so when you graduate, you are essentially, by the time you pass that course, if you pass that course, you're guaranteed a job. You're guaranteed an entry-level job. And that's going to school. I mean, as much as you know about an airplane is that it just flies in the air and you know nothing else about them. And you still, if you go and learn that course and you got a foot in the door, man.
Yeah. And that's kind of like the big door opener right there. Just have your foot through and you'd be amazed how much stuff you'd be opened up to, whether it be the apprenticeship, whether it be going through a school, whether you going to a high school program. Right. I think FAA and CASA do an awesome job with this, especially when Hot Wings was telling us about her experiences, how she got into the whole thing where she's doing a 4-year apprenticeship, et cetera, et cetera. And then like some schools, both CASA, FAA, I think he also does it too, where you start off in high school, they give you they give you like a bunch of programs, some experience. You basically walk out with 2 years worth of experience and you just work for the other 2 with a company that possibly already offered you an apprenticeship. And then bam, there you go.
Yeah.
So, and then like you were saying with the school where like they have these new programs where they'll send you to school to learn these programs. And then you're basically guaranteed an air quote internship that leads to a permanent job. That's
pretty awesome.
When we were coming up, that was unheard of.
No. And one thing that I wish that the United States would do that they do, Canada, Europe, and Australia, is that they do call the maintainers engineers. We might as well be, man. Half the time we're finding those blueprints that are wrong, and we're going to the engineering and fixing them
Yeah.
hand in hand with the engineers. And it should be that way because it would also increase pay wages some too. But the unfortunate side within the U.S., and I can't remember what presidency made it to where in the United States, aviation maintainers are not a specialized industry, whereas like auto maintainers are,
Mm-hmm.
or carpenters are. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me because there's so much risk involved with being an aviation maintainer. Yeah, there is with cars too, but if the car breaks down, you roll to the side of the road and you call AAA or something,
Right.
Carpenter, oh, hey, I cut the board wrong. All right, well, rip the board out, try again. In aviation, you do something to that effect, a little off, and it falls out of the sky, right? There's no pulling over a plane. I mean, you're going to glide in and hopefully make it to an airfield. But if you don't, chances of catastrophe are extremely higher. So for some reason, we're not considered a specialized industry within the United States, but I hope that changes. And I wonder if we could work with that RTAG group to somehow push something to Washington to get that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that'd be something we could definitely talk about, or at least pitch it to him. And I'm sure there's a lot of aircraft mechanics out there who are basically on par with being an engineer, either with their own personal experience or with dealing with some of the other entities that do recognize aircraft maintenance engineers, and be something we can totally push. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
it would be awesome.
I'm still.
It'd be fantastic if we could.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm still laughing about the whole lame thing.
Well, so
I'm still laughing about it, I swear.
I pulled up the article. Let me see here. So I downloaded this PDF online, and it's from the Australian Government Civil Aviation Safety Authority, the 2019 Career Guide for Aircraft Maintenance Engineer, i.e., an AME, an AIM.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to be a lame, you're a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer. Now, that's hysterical. And Australia, you couldn't have come up with a better acronym. You're so lame. Why, thanks. I have a really good job. Awesome. Like,
I wonder if they clown themselves about that. Like
I wonder if they do too. I would be all the time like, oh God, you're so lame. Yeah, thanks, man. I worked hard to get there.
If they haven't, they probably should. I mean, they probably have a lot more respect than that. But I could just imagine someone just not knowing what aviation's about at all, and you hear and you see their business card or their license or something, and it's like, what the fuck is lame? Oh my God, I can imagine the bar jokes they get for that.
Here. Okay, so it says, let's go over a little bit of the article. So, is aircraft engineering for me? Right. So we're talking about getting into the industry, or if you're already in there and you want to progress, whatever. But section 1 states, is aircraft engineering for me? Do you love the idea of working with state-of-the-art technology? Do you like to know how things work? Do you enjoy finding practical solutions to problems? If so, aircraft engineering could be for you. And aircraft engineers get to work with some of the newest and most powerful flying machines on Earth. It says, as an aircraft engineer, you will always be at the center of things in aviation. No aircraft takes off without being checked and signed off by an engineer. True.
Very true.
Same goes for us in the States. An aircraft engineer must be methodical, meticulous, and love hands-on work. Aircraft engineers enjoy bringing all their training and experience together to find and fix physical problems. And of course, there's an instant satisfaction of seeing your hard work really take off. The diversity of aircraft flying today means you always have something interesting in your fingertips, or at your fingertips, excuse me. As an aircraft maintenance engineer, an AME, pronounced AME, or licensed aircraft maintenance engineer, lame, pronounced LAME, you could specialize in checking and maintaining aircraft engines and components, simple piston engines to complex microcompressor controlled jet engines, structural integrity ranging from wood and fabric to advanced composites and complex metal alloys, electrical systems. Some aircraft have the capacity to generate enough energy to power a small town. True.
Very true.
Flight management, navigation, and communication systems utilizing microcompressor satellite and laser technologies. To be successful in aircraft engineering, you will need strong attention to detail, a preference for mathematics and science, the ability to work well individually and as part of a team. So if it sounds like you read on, you could be on your way to a satisfying career keeping Australia's fleet of more than 15,000 private and commercial aircraft flying safely. So there you go.
Wow.
It's Amy and Lamey.
Lamey.
And
Lamey.
I don't care. I'm still calling it Aim and Lame.
Aim and lame. But you know what, man? Like as you're reading, it's like, is this for you? And then you start reading it off like, wow, this summarizes my life right now. Like I do like making practical solutions. I like hands-on work. Yes, I do like to play with new toys. God damn it. This thing really pegged me. It had me pegged.
And then you listen back to some of our other episodes like, son of a bitch, piece of crap mother. God.
Well, that's going on to like the nature of things, right? Because no matter how new something is or how sophisticated and smart it is, if you don't take care of it, it's going to break, right? And for those of you out there, if a lot of stuff that we have worked on, it's not taken care of enough, or it's ran too ragged to be well taken care of, right? Like say like when you guys go to a Jiffy Lube and they say, "Hey man, you need to replace your air filter." How many of you say no?
Yeah, exactly.
Just for an air filter, like a $20 air filter, like, nah, I'm cool. It's okay. Just let it ride. Well, that's the same mentality with airplanes. Like, hey boss, somebody serviced the oxygen with nitrogen, so we should probably take this plane down and fix it. It'd be fine. What? 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 No. Air is air, right? No, absolutely not. I'm still fuming about that, by the way.
This article, man, from Australia is a very good article. So section 2 is, where could a career in aircraft engineering take me? Ooh. Aircraft engineers are in demand by airlines and aviation companies. You could progress from an apprentice to a licensed professional, and there are lots of areas to specialize in. Aircraft engineering could also be a pathway to aeronautical engineering, which is a highly theoretical field utilized in the manufacturing side of aviation, as well as in the structural, mechanical, and avionics maintenance fields. Now, you'll learn as you get in the industry, right? You can work production, manufacturing, to flight test, to operations. Some people like the production side of the house. They like the repetitive, same, looking at these sections all the time, getting really good at those specific areas of the aircraft build process. It's not for me. I can tell you that. I am an operations-based person through and through. A little bit of flight test, but flight test gets real annoying because it's constantly changing configurations, this and that.
Yep.
I'm all about getting out there and doing missions. So op side of the house is where I like to be, and that's where I'm at now.
Same here. I mean, I'm not, but that's kind of my thing too. Like doing the manufacturing and production side has its moments because you actually see the things getting made, and you're the ones kind of the first line of quality to make sure that we're giving you guys a solid product. So if anything's broken, it's your fault kind of thing. But
well, the best part about production is if you're getting started out in the aviation field, that's the best area for you to be in. You are going to get such an in-depth knowledge of those airframes because you're going to see the integral side of them. You're going to be installing the components into the airframe. You're going to have such an in-depth knowledge. So once you finally move on to flight test or ops and you're fixing problems as they break, coming back from flights and things, you're going to already know how that system is installed, where it's installed, and how it operates. So yes, you're still going to have to follow your manual, but you're going to be that much faster because you already have that kind of knowledge. So it's a great way to start out in the field in production. But once you get beyond that stage, again, for me, coming to the growth side of things, I was like, man, I gotta do something else. And so then I found out the ops side, and then I was like, oh, this is it. This is where I like to be.
Yep. And so again, for everyone else, like don't just look for the shining gold ticket. Sometimes, you got to build your way up to it. Just like what that article in Kesa says, like it can lead to, but it's all on you as far as the wanting to chase it, right? Sometimes you may get lucky and just dump right into it, to flight tests or operations or whatnot. But I mean, if your only door at the moment is an entry level for a production team, hey, you never know where it could lead you. Sometimes you may find out that the stereotypes you hear from it are not 100% accurate, and like, well, I don't see what the hype was about it, but here we are. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, everybody's experience is different. But to add to what you're saying, all right, continuing on with this article, the more qualifications and variety of engine system type licenses you have, the better your employment and career opportunities. Australia's aircraft engineer trade qualifications conform to international standards. So you could find yourself working for a global maintenance company with the opportunity to work anywhere in the world. And that goes true for EASA and FAA, be it Europe or here in the States. You can most definitely find a spot where you can work anywhere in the world. It's pretty impressive. And it could be even the company you work within your own home company. They might have foreign based operations, and you could go work over there. You never know what's gonna become of it, but just got to get in there, get your feet wet, learn what you can, get the training certifications, or not training, but get your certifications along the way, and just make yourself as marketable as possible.
Absolutely. And again, like we said, we're within the next 18 years, we're just in North America alone, we're looking about 10,000 new technicians for a total of 192,000 technicians. And then 65,000 for pilots, 169,000 for crew chiefs or crew members. So that's almost that's a lot of opportunity for a lot of people there. When we were coming up, that didn't exist. It was either you're in it already or you knew someone who was, and you had to have someone network you in. Nowadays, you just have to have a pulse, really. A pulse.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I found about getting into the aviation maintenance field?
What's that?
I was up at like 11:30 one night watching TV in my bedroom, and a commercial came on. And that's the one and only time I ever saw that commercial.
Yeah.
And it was right around the same time I was it was just after high school, and I hadn't really decided if I was going to go military or college. I'd, met with a couple of recruiters and stuff, but hadn't made any decisions and didn't know if I wanted to go to a 4-year yet either, because I didn't really want to be buried in books. And then I just happened to see that commercial come on. And the very next day, Dad says, well, have you thought about anything else? I said, well, I saw this last night. And so that next week we drove over to where that school was at and got a tour. And I said, yeah, I guess I can do this. And that's literally how I got into it. Was a late night commercial.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Almost the same with me, except the commercial was for the Marine recruiter, but same. but like we were saying, like, so we're hiring a lot of, companies are hiring a lot of new technicians. And as we've mentioned, like the aviation industry, among others, they're booming and they're booming fast. So like right today, say you start today, you're working on reciprocating turbine engines or something like that. And then 10 years down the line, we're like semi-nuclear freaking supersonic engines. You never know how fast this stuff will advance, because I mean, ask us like 10 years ago where the airplanes were, and I can tell you like they were still using Atari-based computer brains.
Well, I mean, as for some of the nav systems, how you would download the new maps and charts for the nav system, still uses floppy disk. And that was up until I think that some of them still are, but I was doing that up until like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we got to go download the new maps and charts. I was like, cool. We doing like USB? We doing direct connect via laptop into the system? No, you're going to download it from the website onto these floppy disks. Floppy? Are you shitting me? And then there was you would always get to like 98%, and then the fucking floppy disk would shit itself out, and you'd have to go cut the whole series yet again. Dude, I remember one night I went through 65 floppy disks to do one map load. Jesus, Murphy. Oh my God, I hated those things. But it's because to upgrade that system from a floppy disk to a USB was a $10,000 upgrade, and none of those operators weren't paying that money, because they had that one particular operator had at least 15 aircraft that would have had to been upgraded.
Jesus.
And they weren't gonna spend that kind of money when they can make clowns like me go out there and waste 6 hours downloading 65 floppy disks to get it to work.
Right. I'm not gonna lie, this kind of reminds me of like vibration tests for helicopters. Before, like I would listen to a lot of legacy technicians, and they'll talk about using grease pens and what is it called? Like vibration charts. Like you would actually you'll have like this circle chart, and you had to graph all the points of where you saw the vibrations and shit. Like nowadays, the freaking plane is so smart, it basically emails you what's wrong with itself. You know?
Well, that's how some of the new Gulfstreams are, man. Like you're flying along and it'll give you can fix most things with a laptop. You just plug in and it tells you what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
I had a hiccup in engine number 2, and it looks like igniter 4 igniter 2 is a little corroded, and fuel nozzle 6 is not operating as efficiently as it could. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thank you, plane.
Thanks, plane. Good looking out, plane. Now imagine this, right? 10 years from now, like we're gonna be using like drones to help fix planes. We're gonna have like little freaking R2 units, like with all the tools and shit you will ever need, like in its body and shit.
For real though, I foresee that happening too. You're gonna walk out there and the little R2D2 is gonna plug into the plane. He's gonna whistle 3 times and put up a hologram of what's wrong, a 3D map printed showing what's wrong with the plane.
Right.
Like holy cow.
But yeah,
that's pretty impressive. I hope it does get there though. That's gonna be fun, man.
I'm
imagine going through the training. Like, here's your issued R2D2, and you and him are going to have to go through the schooling together to learn how to work well with one another and how each other operates.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that'd be so dope.
That would be dope, man. I'm excited for that. And thinking about that now, God, I want my own. I want my own R2D2.
Right.
Come on, R2, time to go to work. Boop beep, boop beep.
So yeah, that's potentially the outlook. So if you thought about it, if you've remotely considered it, just pull the trigger and do it. Because at the worst case scenario, you end up with some kind of schooling or some form of a license and some form of experience that's going to challenge you. And then if you end up sticking with it, the possibilities in the very near future to the distant future are going to be so wide, because this stuff expands and advances so fast. That's another reason why we need newer guys to come in, because a lot of these legacy individuals, they're so used to the systems that they had that never changed that much within 20 years. And then flash forward 20 years after that, it's freaking completely new glass cockpits and planes that talk back to you. Shit, your tools almost talk back to you.
Well, and that's and to add to that, right, and going just from this article again from the Australian government, aircraft maintenance engineer license are perpetual, but to keep licenses current, aircraft maintenance engineers are required to have 6 months experience in the field during the previous 24 months. But due to the ever increasing complexity of aircraft, LAMEs are encouraged to undertake ongoing training using courses such as those offered by manufacturers, employers, or external contractors. So as Six has said, these, when you start out in the field, just like he and I started out in the field, we're using these old floppy disk based systems to moving on to aircraft that can talk to you and tell you what's wrong with it. But to be comfortable with those systems, you got to get the training on it and how to use the software within the laptops, your maintenance laptops, how to operate the system on the aircraft. And so talk to your employer, say, hey, boss, I'm seeing we've got 2 of these aircraft in here now. We've only got one person who's been trained up on it. I've been working hand in hand with them and learning a little bit, but I would like the official training, and try to sell it to them that way and saying, hey, instead of single point failure, send me to school. I've already got a little bit of understanding. Let's just make it true with a piece of paper.
Yeah. Right.
So AMEs and LAMEs, or AIMs and LAMEs, an aircraft maintenance engineer works under the direction of licensed aircraft engineer, the LAME, to carry out servicing and maintenance work. They must meet a range of local and international aviation standards to ensure the aircraft is worthy. An AME's job is to maintain and service aircraft in approved maintenance organizations located in Australia and in approved maintenance organizations operated by Australian or overseas companies located overseas. So So in some cases, right, let's just say you're in Australia, you got to abide by their rules. But let's say you're coming to LAX to work on a plane over here, you got to abide by, your host country's rules as well as the FAA's now, because you're operating in FAA airspace. And then if you move over to Europe, you've got to abide by EASA stuff as well.
Yep.
Now, lamies or lames can also carry out servicing and maintenance work, but their main role is to supervise the work of other engineers in the team and sign off their work. So you're the two stamp, or you're the inspected by sign off. So there's corrected by, inspected by here in the States. You're the second signature.
Yep.
Let's see. And certifying that the job has been completed to the required standard and the aircraft is ready to fly. In most cases, an aircraft engineering team will be made up of a number of apprentices, aviation maintenance workers, AMEs, and lames across different specializations, mechanical, structural, and avionics. The ability to communicate clearly and effectively as part of a team is very important for an aircraft engineer. So know that when you're working with your team, know who's got what certifications and what specializations, and say, okay, I've done this job, but I'm only to this level. I need to find me a lame to come and sign off my work. Oh, but the two lames we had for the team, both took time off today. Well, shoot, who are we getting to sign this now? So as knowing that as part of a team, you guys can kind of plan around and say, hey, so-and-so's taking PTO, but that other person's the only one who can sign off our work. So one of them has to be here at any given time. And if not, we got to find a lame from another group to come over and work with us. It'll help you in the planning of that, but also the cross training, right? Because it mentioned structural, avionics, and mechanical. So if you're a structural guy, but you kind of want to learn some engine stuff, cross train with the mechanical. They'll teach you some engine stuff. You can teach them some structural stuff, and then vice versa with avionics. Let them teach you some things about and you guys all can grow better as a unit, and each help each other out, getting some OJT, and then move on and grab that certification so you can work your way up to becoming a lame. So you can be super lame.
Super lame. I know all systems. Honestly, man, like that a nail in the head. And this is coming from another country's organization or their regulations, but it's hand in hand with, it's like worldwide, like you got your teams, you got your certs, you got your awareness of certs, the situations that they apply to, and how to get them. So again, like this is for everyone else coming in. Like sometimes, you're not going to start mid-level like most of us would want to, if you had like next to no experience of it. But there's so many opportunities for you to get to it. There's so many doors out open once you are in, and how far you want to take it is completely up to you.
Yeah. We don't have to read any more out of this article. I mean, I could continue reading. And we could feed off of what it says. This article's got some fantastic stuff, right? So just to give you some bullet points, it tells you about starting out as an aircraft maintenance engineer. What do you do next? What do you look into? How do you choose a training organization? Gives you bullet points of kind of what to look for in the school. Tells you about what you'll study under the different systems, such as mechanical, avionics, and structures. From AIM to LAME, how do you get your license? And explains all you have to do within Australia. I know this is Australia based, but I mean, they might as well have just changed the title from the FAA to this. It's almost verbatim, and in all reality, probably is. Just change a few words here and there and change the title block, but it tells you what you're going to do to go from an AIM to a LAME and how you get there and everything else. And then tells you goes so far down as to tell you how to choose a workplace, right? So you got your license, you get out of school. All right, where do I want to work? What do I want to do? What do I want to work on? Small Cessna prop jobs? Do I want to go work on a Qantas 747?
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty good article, and it has some career profiles in here for some local, local to Australia personnel within the field down there. It kind of they give him a little story on them and kind of how they started out. And like this one person who's from Brisbane, he was at a dead end job and friend talked him into looking into the aircraft side of things, and kind of him and all back and forth. And it turns out he's the best. It's the best decision he ever made. He's moved on. Now he's a man. What's it say? He's a manager. I can't. Well, anyways, he's a manager, and I can't really read the rest of it. But yeah, he got his whole degree and everything else, and it's worked out well.
Yeah. See, there you go, everybody. Chat. All it takes is just to have your foot in the door. And nowadays, with the way the job outlook, the statistics of it all is looking, now is the prime time to do it. Like, you hear all these opportunities of like when to buy a house, when to sell stock, when to do this. If you're looking for a job, now is the time to do it, especially because everything's on the low because of all the cutbacks and the drawdowns and COVID and all this other shit. So doors are basically flinging open for your people to like, we need you now. And we don't care what you used to do. That's the time, because now they're investing in you. And now they're going to give you the opportunity to do what you need to do or take yourself where you want to go. I really don't. Get
yourself in now before the market's flooded, right? So you're only competing with 10 people for a couple of positions rather than 10,000. Now, as we've said, right, not to scare you, but as we've said, over the next, from now until 2039, 10,000 jobs a year. And that's a lot. But when you look at the millions of people within the United States specifically, and if you withdraw force reduction from military and all that kind of stuff, you might be competing with instead of 10 people for that job, you might be competing with 30 people for that job. So don't get discouraged, but be proactive and get out there ahead of it and learn what you can and stay keep on your toes.
Yes, and I think
Six, I don't know if there's a way if we can post this article on our social media or put the link in our social media so our listeners can go read it for themselves. Yes, it's 2019, and if you're better at the interwebs than I am, you can probably find the 2021 guide, but don't know how much would have changed since then. But yeah, it's a good read. It's a good read for those, whether you're in Europe, the States, Australia, Canada, Philippines, you name it. It's a good read. It kind of gives you an idea of where to go.
That definitely is. I mean, like I said, like as we're reading through, like, wow, this had me pegged pretty good. I'm not even working for CASA or anywhere near CASA. So, and they said like change a couple words, change the title, and it's basically whatever country's aviation authority is. It's that universal.
Yeah, it's going to be the same steps to go, no matter what country you're in. It's just different verbiage and what they decide to call you within your own home country.
Right. Final thoughts, MVP.
Hey, it's like any career, right? It's got its ups and downs, but for the most part, aviation maintenance has been pretty good to me. A lot more ups than downs. Stay fluid, stay flexible. If you get into an organization, you just don't like how they're operating, don't be afraid to move on. I've done it six or seven times now, but each step was a positive one. Each one was a little further progression in the chain, right? It got stalemated, stagnant at a couple other industries. So I said, okay, there's no chance for me to move here. So let me try this other company. And then from there to another one, and eventually you just get to where you want to go. Hopefully you don't have to move and the company values you right away and sees your potential and lets you move up. But if not, hey, don't be afraid to say, well, I got to make the change for me.
Yes. And then, like we were alluding to a lot of these times, like you just need to put your foot in the door, and then your opportunities your potential for growth and opportunity is all dependent on you. Like we never saw ourselves doing anything with space or do anything with certain type of jet bodies, but here we are. So it's
crazy the stuff that's out there,
Yeah, and the way it's projecting this to see itself in the near future is a lot more advanced than what we thought it would be when we first started. So you never know. You guys could find yourself on Mars. But it all starts with that.
With our own little R2-D2, like I keep thinking about that now. I really want my own little R2-D2.
Right.
And he's got all the current maintenance manuals downloaded. So no matter where I'm at in the world or what country's playing I'm working on, I got the manuals.
Right. And it's translated to whatever you need it to be.
Yeah. Got to be.
That'd be freaking awesome.
I hope so, man.
Somebody
I hope
smart,
so.
start doing this now. Like plan it
Somebody
out.
smarter than us, get on it. But put our names on the front. We want to be there for the development phase, please.
Right.
I'll be your test bed,
Right?
whatever you want.
Please, I'm down for that. On that note, thanks everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
We'd like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to continue to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners, with special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Ryan Frushauer, Dan Schubert, Jenny Dignan, and the ladies of the Dick Talk and Mimosas podcast. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. Visit our shop at cancelformaintenance.com and grab some swag to show off both your support for us and your prowess as an aircraft technician. If you have ideas for the show or you'd like to be a guest on the show, visit our contact us section and send us a line. We will do what we can to get your ideas or yourself on the show. You can also follow us on social media, such as on Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at Canx, that's CANX for Maintenance Podcast, or on Twitter at CXMX Podcast. Check out some of our affiliates like Rockwell Time, where they make both rugged and classy watches to fit your lifestyle. Use the code CX4MX and save 10% off your purchase. Support us on Patreon. Our patrons get exclusive perks such as access to our Discord, discounts and early access to merch, special patron-only episodes, and so much more. Thank you again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.